Okay, thanks Oliver, and good afternoon everybody. Thank you very much for joining this afternoon. Just wanted to give you a brief overview of eBECS. We've got quite a few clients on the call, but quite a few prospects as well. So eBECS is an organisation. We're 100% Microsoft focused. So as Oliver said, what we're going to be talking about today is Microsoft CRM, but an element of CRM which is field service. Other elements that we do within the organisation is a BI, so business intelligence. So we've got quite a large team now to do all the reporting and the data warehouse piece, which comes on the back of Microsoft applications. We've also got an ERP team that's split into Navision and AX. And then we've also got the ability to put a wrap around all these applications within our managed service and Azure team as well. So lots of our clients are looking to us now to migrate existing applications over to Microsoft's Azure platform, and then we can manage that as well. So if you're interested in any of them areas, please let us know, and we'd be happy to discuss them requirements further as well. So what we're going to cover this afternoon is the FieldOne field service aspect of Microsoft, as I mentioned. So FieldOne, a company based out in the States, still is based out in the States, and it was acquired by Microsoft last year. So eBECS as an organisation, we've been working with them for over 2 years now. We have quite a lot of requirements coming through from our customer base asking for these types of solutions. So what we did, we went to Marketplace and looked at a number of field service solutions. FieldOne seemed like a good fit based on the level of functionality it had and also the tight integration it had with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. So from our point of view, we've got a lot of experience within the product. We've got a lot of experience now that we're now filtering back into Microsoft. Now Microsoft have bought the solution, they're now integrating it even tighter into the standard product. So this week we've seen the release of the latest Microsoft CRM online solution, and now this comes with the field service module. So they've slightly changed the name from FieldOne to field service. Essentially it's just moving into the navigation and integrating it tighter and tighter on every release that Microsoft put in to the marketplace. So what does that mean? I suppose from an existing customer's point of view, it's really good because it means the R&D now, whereas FieldOne had quite a large group of developers, now it's got the R&D backing of billions of pounds from Microsoft. And I suppose from an eBECS point of view as well, it means we put our money on the right horse, I suppose, 2 years ago when there was a lot of different solutions to choose from. We selected FieldOne, and now that means that we've, I suppose, got a good relationship with the FieldOne guys, we've got a good relationship with the Microsoft guys to then, I suppose, feed back the experience that we've had over the last couple of years in terms of things that we've done, things that we've changed, and we've also created a lot of intellectual property and solutions around FieldOne to fill any gaps that we found during some solutions that we've built over the last 2 years as well. So we can go into a bit more detail on that later on as well. Okay, so just some of you are aware of Microsoft CRM at the moment, but just an overview slide. This gives you an understanding of all the different elements. So at the top you can see the different modules. So you've got standard sales, marketing, customer care. Now you've got service in there within that custom app as well. In terms of the ways to access the solution, it's accessed either on a standard laptop, PC or mobile device or tablet. So Microsoft again are making a lot of investment in this area. A couple of years ago it was only available on a mobile Windows phone. They realised there was a lot of people out in there using Android devices and iPhones, and the new CEO basically put down a lot of R&D effort to make sure it's now working across every different platform. So it's totally agnostic in terms of depending on the user you are, you can still get access to Microsoft and also the field service element within there as well, which is key. In terms of the platform, so Microsoft still gives you that platform of choice, whether you go on cloud So that's using the Microsoft Online Service Center. That's got financially backed SLA within there, unlike other leading CRM solutions. It's got data centers in the UK at the end of the year. It's also got data centers currently in Dublin and Amsterdam for Europe. So you've got choice with Microsoft. You can also have the solution on-premise. So depending on your organization, your security, some organizations still want to install the application on their kit. Maybe they've just invested in a large data center and it's only running at a very small capacity. So sometimes it still makes sense to use on-premise applications as well. So Microsoft gives you that ability to run either. And in terms of field service, what it gives you, what it's doing, it's enhancing the CRM platform, and it's putting all these different modules and entities within the application. So an entity is basically just a type of record, just like you'd have an account, a contact, or an opportunity within standard CRM. You've now got information such as job and purchase order, stock transfer information. Now that's standard terminology within the application. So what it allows you to do, it allows you to do the scheduling. So if you can imagine the jobs coming in, this can be entered manually, can be an integration. So some of our clients have integrations to a number of different systems. So for example, an insurance company might send a customer hundreds of jobs every evening in an XML file. Microsoft CRM will pick that up using potentially web services as standard jobs, and then what Microsoft CRM, the scheduling element, will do then is look at each of them jobs, understand who the customer are within there, what the SLA details within there, what resources are required based on the job type, and then allocate that off to different people. So as an engineer in the road, what I'd be getting on my device, either updates during the evening of all my jobs the next day, for example, or we can do it on a job-by-job basis as well. So again, lots of different ways to actually set this up within the field. And then on the device, you basically say, okay, this is the job you're going to go to, this is the location, and then you can use the standard navigation on a mobile phone to do that turn-by-turn sat-nav functionality. So we'll come on to that a little bit later on as well. You can also have stock management. So this is the things that we've extended within eBECS in terms of the ability to have stock management details and understand what's on that person's van at any given time, weights of vans as well. So that's important to make sure you're complying with the legislation, and also to make sure the person's efficient. So rather than sending him out to do a job he hasn't got the right information or the right part even, and having to come back, making sure he's got the right parts, or doing a particular job to a person who you know has got the right parts on hand as well, or even doing a sync up, so two engineers meet at a certain point to swap parts to make sure they can complete that job. Also got extended service level agreement details within here as well. So this is core Microsoft CRM functionality. So SLAs can be set up. That can all be based on different priorities based on the customer and the job type as well. And then every record can have an SLA associated to it, so you can see when things are getting counting down, when they're getting close to SLA expiry, and then notifications and workflow can then be created and sent off to different people to manage them expectations and go back to the customer. And even if that engineer was en route and he was going to miss a particular time slot, there's potential to integrate it into an SMS solution so the customer can be updated along the way. So rather than him turn up half an hour late and no notifications, the customer can be notified along the way if things do change from a traffic perspective, or potentially other jobs, more urgent jobs, come up within that day as well. And because it is on the Microsoft platform, we can then integrate it into other solutions, whether they be other Microsoft CRM platforms, whether they be Microsoft Dynamics platforms from an ERP point of view, or there are other solutions out there in the marketplace. So we integrate into SAP or any other application which holds either customer or financial data. We're going to look at the solution from a back office point of view. So this is the within Microsoft CRM and account record. So on the left hand side you've got standard information. On the right you've got activity details, so we can see here any calls, any meetings, anything which takes place would roll up into the account record, so we can see everything all in one place. So again, Microsoft spent a lot of time and money in making this as user-friendly as possible. So it's a very flat navigation, and it allows the user to get around the system really quickly and also find information quickly as well. So at the top you can see you've got a search bar area here, so you can type in any part of the information, whether it's the customer ID, whether it's a postcode, whether it's a telephone number, and then that will drop into the solution and find the relevant records which are matched within the system, which is great. And for every customer, what you then have is a number of agreements potentially. So an agreement, I suppose, is a contract. So I've got a customer X, Y, Z, and then I've got agreement to fulfill this contract, maybe to service the refrigeration element. And we've got 50 locations up and down the country. Each location has got a fridge, and the SLA details within here are based on certain start and end date, and then potentially we'll have different SLAs based on the type of which comes in as well. So if it was an emergency, we'd put some different SLAs in there to say we need to respond within 4 hours. If it was a question or a service maintenance, maybe we'd have a 3-day window on there as well. So lots of options to set this up during the project and exactly how you work as a business. This is looking at the schedule in a bit more detail, so we can have different time slots within there, different windows. So again, a shop, you might only want to go and do a service when the store manager's there, for example, and we know he's only there 10 to 11 every Tuesday, so we'll put the details within here. All these fields can be changed, the terminology can be changed. Again, this is what we do throughout the project to make sure your exact business process maps into the solution. Because it's Microsoft, very similar functionality to Outlook in terms of creating recurring events. So we can say, from a service point of view, we might need to go there once every 3 months. And as I mentioned earlier, it's once every 3 months, the second Tuesday at 10 o'clock. And rather than you having to set them up individually, you can set them up as a scheduled event. So there's the difference, I suppose, with scheduled events. You know what's going to happen, but potentially there's lots of other unplanned events which are going to come through, and that needs to be scheduled on a best case scenario based on the people you've got from a resource point of view, their location, and also the urgency of that job as well, which can all be done. So an agreement and work orders. So on a work order, I suppose, is what you're actually doing when you get there. So maybe again, if you're doing a service to a fridge, one thing might be to do a clean, then it might be to replace certain elements within that fridge, and then it might be to do an assessment check and then get a sign-off off the store manager to say that's all been done. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to guide that person, guide the engineer to say these are the tasks that you need to do to make sure this is successful. And all these tasks then drop down onto his mobile device, so he's literally ticking things off, and at the end of the job he's getting the sign-off from the store manager as well. So we can see on the case, we're now starting to go into further detail in terms of the cost. You know, how much did this job actually cost us from a labour point of view, but also from a parts point of view as well. So depending on how you bill your client, it might be a fixed contract on a 12-month period, but again, it's interesting for you to understand how much is that fixed contract actually cost you, or you might bill them per job. So we can do either within this solution. So this is the schedule board, what it looks like. So on the left-hand side, you've got the start. Then on the side, you've got all the different engineers within here, and the information for that day. So the different colours show the status. So they might be travelling to a different job. The job might be started. They might have completed that job. So this would typically be displayed on a plasma TV within the call centre, so everybody can see that detail. And if you were a scheduler within that call centre as well, maybe you'd have two screens. One screen would be this to show you that high-level overview, and then another screen you'd have the CRM records within there to add further detail as well. So here is a map of the whole of the UK showing people what engineers you've got in there based on their status, and then you can also overlay that on your customers as well. So you can always look at, okay, if this engineer finishes early on one day, which potential customers have I got near to them who are due a service in the next week, for example. So you can do that kind of searching within the system, and you can then potentially send that engineer another job rather than send them an early finish. And then again, looking at engineer percentage utilization for the day, if you can see somebody's going to go over 100% and they are going to go into overtime, but somebody else is underutilized, maybe you can then look at that scheduled job and the board and move things around, because it's all about the cost per job contract. So rather than paying an engineer overtime, you can then move that job to somebody else, so you don't have to start paying overtime for that particular day. And if you look at this from an engineer's point of view, they're not really interested in all the jobs. All they're interested in is, what am I going to do today? What are the jobs that I'm going to see? What are the things that I need to complete? So this is the tablet view. So either a ruggedized device or potentially on a smartphone. So we can see all the things, all the work orders that I've got to do today. And then when I go into a work order, I can drill down on that to state, right, I've accepted, I'm now traveling to that job, and then I can use the standard functionality on the phone to give me that sat-nav ability to say, okay, when am I getting there, and how do I actually get there as well. This is showing an example on the phone, and you wouldn't have all the fields which are represented within the CRM system. What we do, we design it so it's a condensed number of fields which is just right for that engineer. So these can be changed, and rather than having lots of comments within here, we have lots of pick lists so people can just select the values. So from a reporting point of view, it's a lot easier to then generate reports to see what happened on certain types of jobs, how long things take, and the cost for each job as well. As they go through, and then on the right we can see maybe a picture which is taken. So this is showing somebody's gone into a server room, they've cleaned all the wires up, it all looks great, and now we've got the signature of the site engineer who's actually said, yeah, great, the engineers come in, did a good job, and we'll sign that off for invoice. So from an efficiency point of view, rather than that person going back to the center and typing in all his notes and then an invoice is created and sent off, actually what we can do now, as soon as we've got that signature on site, a workflow can kick off back in CRM, so an invoice can be generated and sent to that client along with a signature, so we can basically say, well, we've done the job, finished at 2:30 today, you signed it at 2:30, here's the invoice ready for payment. So just moving on to the options as well, which is key within the solution to make thousands of jobs every day. We can do that via auto router. So I mentioned earlier this would have a number of different elements taking into consideration the sources. It's also taking into consideration any SLA details that we have within certain customers. So what are the promised time windows that we've set up, and also the ranges as well in terms of when can we do this. So is it a 9 to 5 activity? Is it a 24/7 operation? All these things can be placed in here when the auto routers factor in the details in. So we can look at the different types and the skills as well. So every engineer is set up within the system with all his skill information. So some people can do certain levels of job, where some people will obviously be required, and maybe a team of people are required to do certain jobs as well. If it's moving a certain heavy item, you wouldn't send one person, you need to create that team to carry out that job. We can also split the map into different territories, from Scotland to Cornwall to complete a job. So what we'd do, we'd have a number of different territories potentially mapped within the system, and then they can be used within that resource allocation to make sure that people aren't driving too far. There's always going to be a boundary and I suppose a grey line in terms of, you know, should they move over to a particular other person's boundary, and this is again something we'd set up within the project. This is an example of the schedule board. As you can see, this is a well board for manoeuvre there, but that shows, you know, what can be done when all the jobs are sent to the router and they're optimized. So that technician basically goes from one job to the next, limited travel time from each because they've scheduled the jobs in that particular region for that person for that particular day. So I wanted to show you the latest video that Microsoft have released. So I'm going to just set this.
Delivering the highest level of customer service to the field is necessary in today's competitive market. Field service capabilities Dynamics CRM extends the capabilities of our all-up services offering to field service operations, enabling organizations to take service directly to the field anytime it can be managed over the phone. Essential. We technicians job life service centrally managed performance, equipment failure, and parts stories. Costs and drive revenue.
The latest video that Microsoft published on YouTube, based on the latest capabilities, as I said, which have been released. So what we'd be delighted to do is, you know, to understand your requirements a little bit further, and what we tend to do from a demonstration point of view is build some scenarios based on your requirements, based on your data, based on the terminology that you use within the organization. So when we are presenting it back to other people in your company, data in there isn't recognised, or some of the terms within there are a little bit foreign. So more than happy to do that as the next step. So these are some of the key benefits that some of our clients are seeing now they're using the system such as this. So customer service, because everything is in one system, all the way from the initial lead to the opportunity to the quote and now to the actual work order as well. From a customer service point of view, when they're speaking to the organization, they're getting that full picture because the customer feels like the agent knows exactly what's going on. So they've got that true 360-degree view of the client, and hopefully, you know, the client gets that feeling that they're more engaged as well. And from a communication point of view, as I mentioned, we can send them text messages, we can give them access to a customer portal, so they've got the ability to do a lot of information searching themselves and updating information themselves as well, which is key. From an efficiencies point of view, it reduces travel costs because your resource is traveling less. What does that mean? I suppose that's reducing the fuel that you're using as an organization. From a CO2 point of view as well, it's also ticking a lot of the green flags. So that's key in a lot of organizations now. So that brings you on to the paper and the process reduction. So if we can get rid of all the paper within the organization, so the forms that the engineers are filling in and getting signed off and then bringing back to the office to then get processed and faxed and photocopied, we can do all this now within a single solution. So again, eliminating the time and also the paper through that process. And because we're putting everything in the system, it allows us to report a lot better as well. So I mentioned earlier regarding the fields that we put in there, rather than lots of comments and full text fields, we drive a lot of interaction just with pick lists and the ability for the user to enter information really quickly. What that means, it's easier for the user, but it also drives reports a lot better as well. So the management team can really see what's going on, and then they can delve into the detail if they need to, using standard reports within Microsoft CRM platform or using Power BI as well. So that's another Microsoft solution which is totally integrated within Field Service to allow you to go into that detail from a dashboard level all the way into the record level if needed. And because it's Microsoft, it's user-friendly. And that's key from a user adoption point of view. If people feel like they're being given another system which is difficult to use, they tend to not use it. Whereas if we can say actually it's just an extension of Outlook, people don't feel as threatened, and it's just part of their daily routine, which is great. And because the solution is built on the Microsoft CRM platform, it means from an extensibility point of view and a configuration point of view, it's easy to configure. So adding new fields, adding new pick lists, even creating new entities which are types of records, that can potentially be done by you, the customer, as well, rather than having to come back to us as a partner each time to make them changes. So a lot of the projects that we're working on, typically a phase 1 would be done by us, phase 2 might be a joint delivery, and then phase 3, actually a lot of our clients take on the work themselves because their knowledge is increasing as the projects go on. So really what it means, you're not stuck with one solution. The platform can grow as your organization can grow, and from a cost point of view, you can take a lot of the costs internally if needed as well. Okay, any questions, Oliver? That's all the slides and the content I was going to.
You can obviously tell it's a Friday afternoon. There's no questions. I just want to, obviously, I hope you found today's session useful. Just apologies about some of the audio throughout the session. But as Duff had said, we're more than happy to arrange further one-to-one sessions to understand sort of individual specific requirements in more detail. And after this session, our marketing team will be in touch to arrange these individual sessions. So look, I appreciate everyone's time. And have a great weekend. There's actually a question that's just come through now. Is there a new project element, Dufford?
There is, yeah, that's recently been released as well. So if you want any more information on that, please let us know, and we can schedule another webinar or send you some details on that as well. So again, that's a great enhancement to the standard product.
A couple more questions popping through. Everyone's obviously woken up again. Yeah, how does the tracking work? Is it from GPS on the phone?
It is, yeah. So there's an element of tracking on the phone. So that map is based on where that person is, but it's also based on when that person changes the status. So when you take a picture or change the status, there's a stamp of that location.
Give it a couple couple more seconds. There's a couple more questions coming through. Yeah, Duffy, can you just explain a bit of the licensing costs, please, in a bit more detail? So the questions are coming through around how is it billed? Is it billed per user license?
It is, yeah. It's
platform cost.
Yes, it's a per user per month license. So there's a Microsoft CRM license which you've got different options for. So it's either professional or basic, and then there's another additional cost on top for the field service. So what we'll do, there's a document which goes into a lot more detail of, depending on the license type you require, it'll go into the functionality that's offered. And everybody's license costs could be slightly different based on the agreement with Microsoft, but all the information from a list price point of view is on the Microsoft website, which we can send out as well.
Thanks, Stefan. Another question that's come through. We obviously mentioned that the router is scheduled by area. Can it be scheduled by configured by response time if required?
It can, yeah. So the response time, I suppose that's taken into consideration as one of the factors. So for example, if a job comes in and it's in a 2-hour SLA, that'll obviously take priority from a standard service job which might need to be scheduled over the next couple of days.
Are the field users able to place parts orders from the work order when the parts they need are not in stock on their truck?
Yeah, that's something they can definitely add on to there. Again, every client's slightly different, so we need to look into the exact requirement there, but that's something we can look at and add on.
Again, another question around the licensing. Is it the same user license type for a phone and tablet device?
It is, yeah. So with Microsoft CRM as standard and with this as well, you can access the solution in a number of different ways. So you get one license and that is covered on a number of different devices.
It's a good question as well. In terms of integration, will it integrate with other Microsoft products? So in question, it's specifically around AX 2009.
It will, yeah. So the integration isn't out of the box, but because we've got extensive experience with AX, the different versions, 2009, we can build that integration. Number of ways we can do that, either using the AX and CRM adapter, or potentially using a bit of middleware called Scribe as well that we've done in the past.
Another good question that's come through. Can the calls have stages? So, for example, hits the help desk first, then there's a site visit arranged, etc., etc.
Stages. Yeah, so I suppose that would be a number of tasks. So we can then break that down. So there'd be a number of different activities all logged within CRM.
Again, just sort of high level in terms of implementation timescales. What sort of timescale would we expect to implement this solution for?
Really depends on the requirements. It ranges from small number of months to we've got projects going on over 12 months now. The key thing what we're seeing is though the work that we've done with the projects and the products that we're building to fill some of the gaps within the solution is definitely reducing total implementation costs for these types of projects moving forward, which is great.
Dufford, have you got an idea of how many implementations have been done out in the marketplace and how many eBECS are specifically done?
So in the marketplace it'd be hundreds by FieldOne in the US, and eBECS we've got around about 15 clients over the past since we've been working with it for 2 years.
Another question, can customers have visibility of any of the field service tools?
Not exactly sure what you're
Yeah.
asking for there. In terms of if a customer has got, if it's an end customer, i.e. the person who's having the job completed, they can have access to a portal.
Yeah, it's more sort of a self-service portal.
Exactly, yeah. So they can go onto a portal that can contain the documentation, so any contracts and SLAs, and it can also contain any job information as well, so they can raise jobs via there and see the status of them jobs as well.
Thanks, Dufford. In terms of the stock, does the actual system handle and manage the stock, or does it tie back to the back-end software?
So yeah, it tends to tie back into an ERP solution. So this is where we'd integrate into AX or SAP, for example, to handle that stock information.
That's the last of the questions that have come through. Let's give it another 20-30 seconds to see if anything else is answered. But yeah, as we said, this is more just a high-level overview today. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions out there, and we're obviously extremely keen to come out and do more sort of tailored one-to-one fact-finding sessions to sort of understand people's specifics. So look, I appreciate everyone's time today this afternoon. Have a great bank holiday weekend, and we look forward to hopefully speaking and understanding more of your detail. Thanks very much for your time, guys.
Thank you.